Hi, welcome. Good afternoon. My name is Manan DeFelice, and I will be emceeing today. I am the CEO and founder of Inkwell. At Inkwell, we match forward-thinking companies with our community of educated and experienced professionals to drive more flexibility, diversity, and meaning into the workforce. I believe that the best way to diversify senior teams is through referrals and warm introductions. Revolutionizing this process is what we do at Inkwell. I'm honored to be on stage today. There are 70,000 people here, and 44.5% are women. So great job, Patty and the team. This afternoon, we're focusing on major changes in the media industry. We'll hear from Viacom and AJ+. But first, we'll start with this very special brand of entertainment. This is live news. 2 decades ago, they were ahead of the curve with Johnny Bravo and Powerpuff Girls. Then came Adventure Time and Ben 10. Now we can't get enough of Rick and Morty. Between them, Cartoon Network, Adult Swim, and Boomerang have been creating household names like it was child's play. So what else have they got up their sleeve? Please welcome, in conversation with Shalini Sharma, the president of Cartoon Network, Adult Swim, and Boomerang, Christina Miller. Thank you.
There's nothing like what's on Adult Swim. Like, you're not going to find that anywhere else.
That's what's up!
The talent is constantly growing because we're building each other up as we go. Like, the next generation is taking what they learned and taking it to a new place.
Oh my God, Morty, what did you do? You killed the Simpsons, Morty!
No! Oh, snap!
Yes! No one deserves to be made fun of because of how they look.
There are a lot of people who have different experiences and different points of view than you that will bring something to the table that you weren't even knowing.
And you know you're doing something special. You know you're doing something different. It's not cookie cutter.
Hi, everyone. So, animated content has long been a way to reach young audiences, and now it's also a very popular medium for reaching adults as well. And so Christina here is going to share her expertise running 3 major networks that deal in animated content. And so please do submit your questions to Slido. I will try to get to them at some point before the conversation ends. So Christina, what I wanted to start with was, how do you make your animated content stand out from the pack, since there is so much competition now in that space?
So across the board, it's about storytelling and the creative talent behind each of the shows, or behind the pencil, as we often say. And it really, like, if you look at the younger audiences across Cartoon Network, the studio, it's a community of artists that reflect our audience. So representation matters, quality of creative vision matters, and that sets us apart, whether it's on Cartoon Network or Adult Swim.
And so how is your approach different when you're producing an animated piece for an adult audience versus a youth audience?
So I think the major difference is on an Adult Swim show would be the script, right? It's much more script-driven, whereas on the kids' side, it's much more storyboard-driven, visual.
Got it. And then do you obviously knowing your audience is a key factor in that. So how do you get a great sense of what's working with your audience, what's not, and, pivoting when necessary?
So, we do a lot of research, generational research, audience research, on an ongoing basis, really looking at the marketplace, looking at trends, grabbing insights. There's so much data available to us. Making sure that we're making informed decisions is definitely part of it. And some of it is about finding really great, talented people that we trust, that we believe in their ideas, and giving them the space in the room to create amazing shows. Those two things usually deliver success.
And so how involved do you get with the production process?
So we have an incredible team of people in Burbank in a studio. Rob Sorcher, who's our chief creative officer across Cartoon Network, and Mike Galazzo across Adult Swim. And they're both incredible at what they do. So I'm involved on a regular basis, but day to day, they're really the ones that are hands-on with the content.
And given the current climate, we just saw in the segment before, it was talking about the U.S. election. There's a lot of serious news out there that your sister network covers. How do you feel like the programming tenor is based on that? Do you feel like there's more of an appetite for more engaging, entertaining content given the climate? And how do you program against that?
So first and foremost, we are there to entertain, kids and young adults and make them laugh, and we never lose sight of funny has no age limit. With that said, we are entertaining the youngest of audiences, and I think that it's important that we acknowledge that, and there's some purpose, and where there's an opportunity to help children express themselves or to support things like Stop Bullying, Speak Up is something that Cartoon has been involved in for more than a decade. If you look at a partnership we have with Dove right now, that's about self-esteem and body confidence, and really helping young girls develop that to reach 40 million over the next 24 months. So there is definitely an emphasis on making sure that we're doing more than just entertaining. But first and foremost, it's always about making, our audience laugh.
And then technology plays a big part in animated content. There's always new tools and new ways of doing it. How do you feel about that? Do you try to lean into the new technology, or do you try to make sure it's a fit with the storyline? How do you kind of approach technology and animation?
I think technology is a critical part of storytelling in what we do. We try to stay away from technology for technology's sake, but ultimately, I think we're at our best when we have the intersection of creativity and technology. So what I mean by that is, whether it's a VR execution of a show like We Bare Bears or Adventure Time or Rick and Morty, it's an opportunity to tell another story in an immersive way, to bring people in, to allow them to participate, whether it's mobile gaming, whether it's experiential. We just had a festival for Adult Swim in LA a few weeks ago, and it was 45 acts over 2 days. It was a mix of comedy and music, but there was also plenty of activations that were there as well, whether it was a VR experience around Dream Corp, one of our shows, or a Meatwad Planetarium. There's definitely lots of ways to immerse people, to get them to spend time with you, and I think technology helps create that loop from everything from social to other platforms to tell stories on. When we do our job best, we're connecting all those dots and really mapping the ability to spend time with people by, really creating content by design for those platforms.
And do you feel you need to tell the same story in multiple platforms? Is that necessary right now? And which are the ones you're most interested in?
I think that it's less about telling the same story over and over again and more about telling stories that fit that platform, that are designed for that platform. So if you take something like We Bare Bears, we have a multiplayer VR game where you drive a food truck and, there's teamwork, and it's a very different experience, but it's of the same storyline that you would find if you're a fan of the show. So it's about making sure there's as many access points as possible for people to come into the content to experience it. As well as telling them a different story, so it's not the same thing just cut up and pushed out on a lot of platforms. I think if that's what you're doing, you're going to find a whole lot less success.
So you really need to program specifically for each platform.
Absolutely.
And which are the ones, you've mentioned VR a couple of times, what are some other ones that you're really looking at more closely?
So we've done stuff in VR, we've done stuff in AR, we've done console gaming, mobile gaming. We've looked at different types of storytelling. So in some cases, a little bit of, sort of being able to choose your own narrative, to connecting the TV experience with a collectible experience on mobile. So really, again, it's about understanding the youngest audience, Generation Z. Their expectation is they get to participate, to mix up the content, to some way play a role in it. So technology offers us those platforms. We recently launched a show called Summer Camp Island. Everything in the show comes to life. It's on Cartoon Network, an incredibly charming show. In addition to that, we launched an AR app that, you can move your phone around, and everything that you put your phone on, that table will come to life, the couch will come to life. So again, the same sort of experience in the show and that narrative storytelling applied to a different technology platform.
What about AI? There's a lot of talk of AI and how it's going to change content, that it will make the perfect images and generate them with potentially less manual work. How do you feel about that? Do you still feel like you need organic artists to be doing it, or are you interested in that platform and that technology?
Yeah, I think, listen, a lot of people are talking early about AI, about blockchain, and how these things will contribute to the creative process. And we will always be interested and explore it, but at the end of the day, I think that what makes us unique is the heart and soul of some of the people telling the stories behind the actual series and their ability to connect with audiences. And in animation, you're working so far in advance, and those stories are very personal at times. You look at something like Adventure Time galvanized a generation of audience around the world, and that was really from the heart and soul of the creator and the community of artists that they placed around them. The same thing with a show like Robot Chicken that's been around forever, that's parodying things and being very relevant, or Rick and Morty on Adult Swim. And I think minus those creators, the ability to really connect with people is yet to be proven.
What about social media? So your adult audience, obviously, it's easy to engage with them on social media. Do you have unique ways of trying to engage with maybe the parents of your youth audience, or how do you look at engaging with social media for the younger audience?
So on social media and the younger audiences, most of those platforms are for, as we get out there onto Facebook and to Twitter and to Instagram, a lot of the conversation is for the older other, the parent, or the animation enthusiast, because social media tends to be a 13-plus crowd. So that is slightly different, and we are engaging the family around that audience, as well as the Kids Plus fan. On the Adult Swim audience, then obviously it's a constant feedback loop with our fans. And I think outside of that, like most, I think, companies of our size, we do lots of panel discussions with parents. We're in focus groups on a regular basis. We have ongoing, emotional DNA studies to really understand how people understand are feeling about the properties, the show, the network, the times we're living in. So there's a lot of information. I think more often than not, it's about distilling that down to insights that can really impact the business, and not getting either analysis paralysis or, overwhelmed by the amount of information, because it's only as good as, how you're able to synthesize it and use it.
Now, in terms of your networks, are all fairly well established. They've been around for a while. There's obviously a lot of new talent that's springing up online. How do you kind of approach, transforming yourselves or evolving with the new kind of more organic, smaller digital presences that are creating competition?
I think some of it's about being a little bit platform agnostic, right? Because we often get asked questions about everything from streaming to YouTube to being a linear network. And I think the folks that are doing the best job are really looking at a content plan that uses everything, that really layers the way you're reaching your audience, how often you will be able to get to them, whether that's an in real life experience, whether that's clips or a pilot placed somewhere other than the network, whether it's the marketing around that. So I think that it has to be multiple places in everything that you do, because our goal is to meet our audience where they are with as little friction as possible. In order to do that, you need to think about programming in a less linear way and be slightly more platform agnostic.
So let's try to take a couple of audience questions real quick. So one is there a difference in the way you try to grab the attention of millennials versus Gen Z, the even younger subset?
So yes, definitely on the millennial side, I think that it's about how many places you're going to go meet them, where you're going to have, the access points that you have, making sure that the feedback loop is there, because if people become fans of your show, they're willing to evangelize it. Really understanding that and embracing that. And sometimes that's scary as a IP owner, that open source mentality that you're going to let people in to really evangelize your brand. But I think it's important to do that. On the younger audiences, one of the key things is choice and control. They grew up, they're the first mobile natives. They've had, if they're 12, or younger, they've had, Apple has been around, iPhones have been around, iPads have been around. Knowing all that, they're just a highly visual audience. Making sure you give them choice and control, that they can move through things quickly, that you're communicating to them in a very visual way, and that you are really representative of the world they live in. Real stakes for real kids. And I think that matters to them in a really important way, and making sure that there's diversity behind the sort of pencil and in front of it, and really showing them themselves and what the world they're living in is critical.
This is a quick one, but there seem to be a bunch of people that want to know, when will there be another season of Rick and Morty?
It is a very often asked question, and there is not a date yet, but sometime in 2019.
So for people out there that are in the audience that are interested in the animated format, what is your main takeaway you want to impart to them in terms of getting into the space and how to be effective in it?
So as far as getting into animation overall,
yes.
Now more than ever, because of social platforms, I think that people are finding artists and ideas in new places. There is a less of having to go through a big machine sometimes. You're really able to reach out. So I think if you're an animator or an artist or a storyboard artist, I would say just keep doing the work as often as possible. Place it as many places as possible. You'd be surprised where some of the new show creators are looking for talent, identifying talent, and then, yes, the traditional ways of reaching out to some of the platforms and content providers is as good as ever. But I really do think that ability to publish your own work and to everything from animation to art makes people notice it more frequently.
Last question. We don't have a ton of time, but where do you see Cartoon Network in 10 years? This is also from the audience.
I think that it will continue to be a healthy, fluid brand. And by that, I mean, like, the definition of a network will change over time. It's changing now, actually. And when you listen to AT&T, who recently acquired Time Warner, they talk about being that modern media company. And I think part and parcel of that is we will be everywhere our audience is, whether it's the announcement of a direct-to-consumer platform, whether it is, virtual reality, whether it is AR, whether it's in large form. We most recently announced a Cartoon Network hotel. Over and over again, I think that it will be about immersing people in this brand, keeping the brand healthy, and making sure that storytelling can be told not just on screens, but across the board, on any platform where people are willing to spend time with us.
Real quick, what's your favorite cartoon?
Powerpuff Girls.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Christina Miller, everyone. Thank you all.
Thank you.